Hi everyone, hope you're doing great. Today we'll create an awesome effect by combining the power of Figma, Spline, and Adobe After Effects. I'll guide you step by step through designing vector elements, building 3D models and animations in Spline, and finally turning it all into a masterpiece with some post-production magic in After Effects. First, you need to prepare all the necessary vector elements in Figma or any other tool that supports vector editing. Create the shapes that will serve as the base for building our 3D model. Let's start with the one for Deadpool. It will be based on two basic shapes, a circle and a rectangle. Make sure both shapes have a similar thickness. Remember, once you finish any of the shapes, make sure to select all its layers and use the Union Selection option at the top. This will prepare it for easier editing later in Spline. Once your basic shape for Deadpool is done, we can move on to the next one for the Fantastic Four. The process is exactly the same. This time, we'll just tweak the edge thickness. Don't worry about colors or other effects at this stage. You'll add those in Spline during the next step. After completing the shape for the Fantastic Four, you can start working on the next design for the X-Men. At the end, you need to create a star that will be used as part of Captain America's shield. The rest of the elements will be added later in Spline. Now you can finally start working in Spline. After exporting all the basic shapes from Figma, import them into Spline using the SVG vector import option. Next, make sure to align the shapes to the same position and adjust their size so that all the designs have a consistent scale. Set up the lighting. Position it at an angle and slightly increase its intensity. Click on the shape for Deadpool and follow the on-screen instructions. Start by changing the color, adjusting the lighting, and adding the right matte caps. You can choose from those available in Spline's library. Now, adjust extrusion, bevels, and other settings to give the shape the right form and depth. To enhance the shape's look, it's a good idea to add a grunge or distressed metal texture. You can find plenty of similar graphics in graphic libraries, like Elements Envato or FreePic. Finally, adjust the lighting according to the settings shown on screen. Now, you can start working on the inside of your shape. Use an ellipse to create a shape that fills the center of the model you just designed. Adjust the style of the created shape and follow the instructions shown on screen. Once again, it's a good idea to add a grunge texture and set it as a bump map in the lighting properties. Now, just like before, adjust extrusion, bevels, and other settings to give the shape the right form and depth. Rotating the camera will help you better see the placement and size of the elements. The model for Deadpool is almost ready. You just need to add eyes. To do this, open Figma again or any other vector editing software. You can also import an image of the Deadpool badge, for example a screenshot from a frame of this movie, and use it to create shapes for the eyes. Now, create separate shapes for the eye outlines and their interior. This is very important. Use the union selection and subtract selection options in Figma, following the on-screen instructions. Once the shapes are ready, export them separately as SVG files, and then you can return to Spline. After importing both SVG files into Spline, they may look like this on screen. Adjust the position of both elements so that the interior fully fills the outline, then shrink both shapes and place them in the correct position on your main model. After adjusting the X and Y positions, rotate the camera to adjust the Z position as well. At this stage, adjust the extrusion of our model to ensure the eyes are correctly positioned on the Z axis. This will be crucial for the rotation animation you'll add in the second half of this video. Now you can start adjusting the style of your model. Begin with the eye borders. To enhance the effect, you can add a metal scratch texture once again. You'll find plenty of them in any graphic library. After adding the image, follow the on-screen instructions. Adding depth will bring a great effect to this model. Apply it and adjust the values according to the on-screen instructions. If after setting the origin as shown on screen, the interior of the eyes is still black, adjust the settings for far. Optionally, apply a white grunge texture to the interior of the eyes to achieve a better effect. You can duplicate the image to strengthen the final effect. The eye model is ready. Now duplicate it, flip it horizontally and position it on the other side. Once you adjust the placement, your first main model is complete. Now you can prepare models for Fantastic Four and X-Men. The process will be exactly the same as before. First, adjust the model you previously imported as a vector, then create an object to fill its interior, use colors, matte caps, lighting settings, depth, and optionally additional textures. Always follow on-screen instructions. Just like before, a metal scratch texture will fit perfectly here. Now create a model to fill the interior of your base shape. Optionally, use a metal scratched or grunge texture here. Great job! Now you can prepare the model for the X-Men. Just like before, follow the on-screen instructions. Keep following the instructions. You're doing great. To achieve a better effect, you can use a few different textures here. In this case, two are grunge textures and the third is a dirt texture. Remember to choose the right modes, such as add or multiply, to get the best final result. Congratulations! The X-Men model is complete. The last one left is for Captain America. To do this, copy the ellipse model you created earlier for the X-Men object. Make sure it's an ellipse. Adjust the ring and bevel settings to achieve a similar effect to what you see on the screen. Duplicate this object twice and adjust the ring values. Duplicate the ellipse object one last time and set the ring values to 0. If needed, adjust the bevel, bevel sides, or other shape settings. Now, remove the previous materials and follow the instructions. Start by creating a material for the shield elements in red. To achieve a more metallic effect, you can optionally add an extra metal matte cap. The one shown on the screen is from a matte cap pack purchased from Cosmolabs. Once your material for the red color is ready, you can move on to designing the white part of the shield. Just like before, an extra metal matte cap will add a nice touch here. Once your material for the white part of the shield is ready, save the red color you created earlier so you can easily apply it with one click to the next part of the shield. If needed, expand the material settings and adjust them for this part of the shield, such as tweaking the brightness and saturation. Now, go to the object located just below the star model. You can apply the predefined red material there, then expand the settings and adjust the object to match the blue color on Captain America's shield. You can adjust this material as it's shown currently on the screen. Finally, you can move on to the last object on Captain America's shield, which is the star. Just like with the red material, save the white one you designed earlier and apply it to the star with one click. Now, adjust the star model settings by increasing the values for extrusion and bevel. Then, Position the camera at an angle and adjust the object's placement along the Z-axis so that the star touches the edge of the shield. At the end, you can also make small adjustments, such as the brightness of the specific object if you feel it's necessary. All models are ready. Before moving on to animation, it's a good idea to check if they are all in the same position with identical size and proportions. This is crucial for creating smooth transitions in After Effects in the next step. As you can see, now the identical position and scale of the model seem to be just fine. You can start preparing the rotation animation. To do this, create an additional state on the right side and set the rotation values to -360, then add a new event. Follow the instructions on the screen and make sure to set identical values for tempo and delay. Once you're done, create animations for the remaining 3D models with the same speed and values. Then export each model separately. While it's not mandatory, you can use the PNG sequence format. Also, remember to set the frame rate to 60. After exporting each model's animation separately, you can import them into Adobe After Effects. If you haven't done it yet, create a new composition with a resolution of 1920 by 1080 and set the frame rate to 60. Apply the first animation to the timeline. If you exported the files in MP4, as I did, create a new solid with the exact same color as the background of the rendered animation in Spline. Place this solid at the very bottom of all the layers. Adjust the position and scale to center the animation. You can use the proportional grid feature to help you verify the alignment. To make the background more appealing, you can optionally add an extra layer with particles and light rays. In the example shown on the screen, I used one of the assets I downloaded from Envato Elements. You can find plenty of similar effects in any video library by searching for terms like light rays and particles. If necessary, adjust the scale, position, and rotation, as well as add an appropriate mask and change the mode from normal to add or lighten. Now you can focus on setting the transitions between animations of each model. To do this, remember that if you use the same animation settings in Spline as I did, you need to set the stretch factor for each layer with the model animation in After Effects to 50. If you've already placed the Deadpool animation on the timeline, the next step is to add the Fantastic Four animation on the layer above, using the same settings. The animations of the models must overlap perfectly one-to-one, so you can later create a smooth transition by reducing opacity. Follow the instructions shown on the screen. As you can see, the first transition is ready. For the next animations rendered in Spline, you need to follow the same steps as you did here. Use the same scale, rotation, stretch factor values, and make sure the animations perfectly overlap so the transition works smoothly. Follow the instructions displayed on the screen. Once again, the animations align perfectly, so you can smoothly add a transition by gradually reducing the opacity. Let's create the final fade transition, and then you'll be able to move on to the next step. Your fade transitions are ready. Now, extend the static part of the animation after the 3D XMen model's rotation, so that we can add the next animations on top of it. You can use the time stretch function again and increase the stretch factor so that the static part of the layer after the animation lasts about 5 to 6 seconds. Now, add the claw scratch shape to the timeline in PNG format. You can create this illustration yourself or download it from one of the graphic libraries by searching for phrases like claw scratch. Place the claw scratch shape in the center of the 3D model. The size is currently appropriate. The claw scratch shape should slightly extend beyond the object. After that, remember to select the layer and choose the pre-compose option using the same settings as shown on the screen. Enter the newly created composition with the claw shape and create a new solid. Now you can start working on the animation of your shape. To do this, use the solid you just added and follow the instructions shown on the screen. Set the track matte for the claw composition by selecting the first layer from the list, which is the solid with the animation. Now you can return to the previous composition and set the track matte for the XMen layer to the claw shape animation layer. As you can see, the animation works, but it would be a good idea to add an effect that simulates scratched metal. To do this, copy the claw shape layer from the composition where we just created the animation and paste it into the main composition. Then use the pre-compose function again with the same settings and follow the instructions shown on the screen. Use the pre-compose option again and copy the solid from the composition where you were previously working on the animation. Paste it into the composition where you're now working on the scratched metal effect. Now it looks much better, but you can enhance the effect further by adding some shadow. Follow the instructions shown on the screen. The last thing you need to do for the claw shape animation is adjust the size of the scratched metal effect to fit the 3D model. You can do this by using a mask. Now it's time to add additional elements to enhance your animation, starting with spark effects. There are plenty of similar assets available in any video effects library. For the example shown on the screen, I used assets from Elements and Vato. Regardless of where the effects come from, you need to adjust their size, rotation, and color scheme in a similar way to what's shown on the screen. Also, make sure to animate the position of this asset so that it follows the claw shape animation. You can also adjust the blending mode to add or lighten and modify the saturation using the curves effect. Your first spark effect is ready. Now duplicate it twice and adjust it in the remaining two positions as shown on the screen. The animation is almost ready. Optionally, add 1 or 2 more spark burst effects to make the entire design even more dynamic. The asset I used in the tutorial comes from Elements and Vato. And last but not least, let's add a smoke effect. Again, you'll find plenty of similar assets in any video effects library. Your 3D model's animation is ready. To add a bit more dynamism to the entire design, you can create a quick camera zoom animation right before the claw shape animation begins. To do this, create a new adjustment layer. Set the appropriate speed and intensity for the animation. Finally, select all the remaining layers in the composition and link them to the adjustment layer you just added using the parent and link option. That's it, thanks for watching. See you next time.